when you see that challenge becomes your opportunity to face your life and then move forward and come out as shining star, that's how I look at Mathew. He's very inspiring and very motivational, and I really very glad to have him as part of our team. And I wish him really good luck that he's moving on to another areas. But we wish you all the best, and let's hear what inspiration you have to give us right now.
Okay, so I'm a little bit nervous, so I have a paper here just to keep my mind on track. Okay, thank you very much for having me here today. Thank you for your time, and especially during the 3-day weekend. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was very inspiring and motivational. Thank you very much. So now I would like to share my story. This is my 5th year teaching. However, my first year with the county. I currently teach at Dartmouth Middle School. I teach deaf children. This will be my first and last year there because I am transferring to Lee High School next year. I will continue to teach math and also develop a new math curriculum. This curriculum will fit the deaf needs. It is also parallel with Common Core. This will satisfy the diploma track that is needed. Now I am back where everything had started. I'd like to share what I need. So let's go back to the beginning of my life. As a deaf person, you navigate through the world. I also navigated myself through this program. I was a student here. I was born deaf. My parents didn't realize I was deaf until I was about 8 months old. First, I want to introduce my father. He's sitting right there. He's told me some stories, like he made a home test to test if I was deaf with pots and pans to see if I would hear him and look at him. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So he brought me to an audiologist where they did confirm I am in fact deaf. My father was understandably devastated and went through a short period of denial. But not long after that, he went looking for my education options. He found one program. This program was a strictly oral program. Their philosophy was to not use sign language. My father wanted to look for a different option. He then went to Fremont. They are a strictly signing program. My father thought, why can't we have the best of both worlds? He continued his search, and he found the Deaf and Hard of Hearing program within SCCOE, located at Oster. Their philosophy is total communication, which utilizes both sign and speaking modes. So I started attending. My father started attending signing classes. He would go home and teach me sign. My very first sign was cookie. Of course. Based on the odds of parents that sign with their deaf children, I am extremely fortunate that my father learned sign. Research shows that 98% of hearing parents do not sign with their deaf children. I started the SCCOE program when I was about 3. That's when I started interacting with deaf peers, signing with them, as well as teachers and staff. Everyone signed. It was amazing to have full access. When I became 5, I surpassed my father in his signing ability. That was when the student became the teacher, and I started teaching him sign. But he did continue to go to sign class. until I graduated elementary school. Since then, there were several occasions until 4th grade that I would hide my hearing aids or pretend to lose them. I didn't like them. And my father accepted and gave in and didn't force me to use hearing aids anymore. We also had agreed that I would stop going to speech therapy. I really didn't care how well I spoke, because I realized I had already seen how well I signed. And speaking was not useful for me. Also, I was pulled out of class to then go to speech therapy. I'd prefer to be in class and learn. Because my parents signing at home, I had full access at home, as well as at school. I had 24/7 access to communication and information. Because of this, I was not severely delayed, like many deaf individuals are. Because of this, I was placed in mainstream. I was placed in a general education setting with my other hearing peers. I continuously tried to feel like I belonged with this hearing peer group, and I never felt so. My peer group continued to bully me, and I always felt less than. So how to cope with that? I found a group of SDC deaf children, and I started bullying them. I looked down upon them. Despite that, I still had a couple hearing friends, as well as a handful of deaf friends. I grew up, and I became older. I became more self-aware of how I felt. And I wanted to express my feelings, but I felt stuck. I felt like my language was limited, because I didn't have a deaf role model. Of course, I had my father, but he was my only option. I should have more. I really had no one. My deaf friends, we could communicate, but our conversations were very superficial. There was nothing related to philosophy or academia. Because of that, I started to become a troublemaker in my education K through 12. I started expressing myself in different ways because of my frustration. That experience was extremely frustrating. Now, my junior and senior year of high school, I had a good support system to help me transition into college. If it was ACT or SATs, applications, grants, I chose to go to Gavilan College. But in despite of that support, I felt lost after I left the program. I had no idea what to do next. During the 2 years at Gavilan College, I took 60 units and I had a 2.7 GPA. I felt lonely. My deafhood was wanting to come out, and I wanted to find a home. That was when I found a program in Southern California, CSUN, of which 150 deaf students attend. And they were just like me. The first day I stepped foot on the campus of CSUN was the day I found my home. I had a double major in psychology and deaf studies. I was involved in many different types of organizations, of which I enjoyed. My GPA skyrocketed to a 3.7 GPA. That's one full grade point average increase. Thank you. That was one of my best times in my life. And that was when my deaf identity blossomed. In that environment, I truly thrived. Many things happened, and many things that I learned, especially about myself. And these were things that I had wished I had learned so long ago. Now, to the point. I loved physics, I loved math, and I loved computers, and I loved finances. And I was darn good at those things. I could have become a computer scientist. I could have become an architect. I could have even become an accountant. And they make incredible salaries, and I enjoyed it. But I caught myself wondering, why would I major in deaf studies and psychology if those were my passions? And I did find the answer, because I wanted to find myself. And it's never too late for me to go back to school, to take classes, to still immerse myself in my dream job. It's still never too late. But then I think, again, about deaf children. Their experiences were just like mine. And I think all of the things that I had signing parents, I had signing peers, I had signing adults all around me. I even had access to interpreters. I thought I had the best. But I think about the things that I lacked, and I found the answer: my deafhood. In other words, my deaf identity. I know that deaf children will never find their deafhood or their deaf identity without a deaf role model. This is why I decided to be involved in deaf education. I want to make a difference in deaf children's lives. As a deaf advocate, as a deaf teacher, and as a deaf role model. Unlike myself growing up, I want them, these deaf children, to love themselves, to be proud of themselves, and to know their deafhood. This way, they are able to find their home in their hearts as early as they can, so that they can grow up to be happy with themselves and to chase their dream careers. Thank you.